Molly Walsh. Molly Walsh from Friend of the Earth, and she's going to take us through why are there what are there not women in community energy and what to do about it. Molly Walsh is originally from Ireland and has an academic background in biology and ecology. She has worked in Brussels since 2013. She campaigned and advocate for the energy transition to be in the hand of the community and of the citizen. So Molly Walsh, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to speak a little bit about why don't we have more women in community energy. And we heard a lot this morning about the different, we heard from Dorothy Fouquet, and we heard about from the different researchers who are looking into this. And I think in the areas of civil society or research, already the gender balance is much better. But in my work, I work a lot with the projects themselves. So the community level initiatives from our side, particularly in Europe, who have set up a project. So who own a wind farm collectively, or doing energy efficiency projects. And for sure, most of those kind of practitioners are men. We've spoke with ResCop quite a lot about it. It's a known phenomenon, and now they are starting to take measures to see what they can do about that. But also, every movement has its kind of heroes and its the kind of characters in its stories. And for the community energy movement in Europe, it's certainly male characters. People like Dirk van Sint-Jan, who many of you will know. Of course, I love Dirk. He's an amazing character for us to put forward. But also similarly, people in the UK like Agamemnon, most of our kind of early pioneers and heroes are really male figures. And we've wondered, like, what are the reasons behind this? And I have a few theories myself, but I'm also interested in hearing other people's ideas. And one of them is the general lack of encouragement and lack of belief that women should be doing things in STEM, so in science and technology in general. There were a few people speaking already from the engineering background, but yeah, Dorota read us the figures about what the ratios are between men and women in these areas. And I want to tell a small anecdote which highlights for me one of the reasons why women don't feel empowered or confident in the area of energy. And yeah, as I was introduced, I'm Irish, and I was a policy officer in Friends of the Earth in Ireland before I worked in Brussels. And I remember once being on a national television debate. I was there with my director, who was speaking on the panel. The Minister for Energy at the time was also speaking on the panel, but we were in the audience. It's the Pat Kenny show. And so there was a male host, 2 other men on the panel, and the topic was energy. And there was a debate, and I, in the audience, had my hand up the whole time. I wanted to ask a question. And none of the people from the audience who were given the microphone were women. Everyone was men. And so the entire debate, the people on the stage, the people who were given the microphone in the audience were all men. And afterwards we were invited to the green room to go backstage. And the TV presenter was being very friendly and very charming. And when we were leaving, he said, "Oh, I hope we'll see you again." And I said, yeah, because it would be nice to have some female voices. And he said, oh, yeah, but you know, we were talking about energy and it's very technical. And when it gets very technical, it just gets very male. And he meant this as just like the way things were, like as if, yeah, well, I mean, when the sun shines, the sky is blue. And this is the kind of expectation for the debate on energy, that it's by men and for men. And Dirta talked in the morning about how manuals for technical energy systems are designed by men and for men. So making sure that we don't think that energy is purely the purvey of men is one of the things that we can do about it. And also looking at the kind of barriers to engagement that push women out of these groups, I think is important. There's a lot of discourse and discussion in the sector about what the barriers are to community ownership of energy. And when I first started working on this topic, I traveled around Europe and I met with a lot of projects, and I always asked them, what was the most difficult thing about succeeding in your project? Or why do you know some reasons why some other projects have failed? And of course, there's 4 or 5 well-known technical barriers, you know, administrative barriers, grid access, access to finance. And these are what you will always read about in the literature. But there are also others. Many community energy groups fall apart because of group dynamics, because of problems within the group, because it's a voluntary group of citizens working together, trying to do something good for their community. And sometimes there are just people who are very difficult to work with, or the group doesn't take any time to sustain itself and care for for people who are burning out, and make sure that people stay engaged and excited in a project. And this is a very common reason why community energy projects fail, even though you don't read about it so much in the literature. So one of the things we think we can do about this is we've started to address it directly. And we, with Friends of the Earth and ResCop and Energy Cities, we produced a handbook on community energy. So it's for anybody who's starting up a project and who wants to find out everything they need to know to set up a community energy project in their own community. And if I can share my screen for a moment, we address the technical barriers. So you'll find a lot in it about accessing finance, getting grid access, power purchase agreements, blah, blah, blah. But we also made sure that we spent time and energy in this book on those more kind of soft skills that are needed. So there's a chapter on sustaining your group. There's a chapter on group dynamics. And so you can see we have a little checklist of things to sustain your group. We have things like agree as a group that everyone does what they commit to. Make sure that there are good notes taken in each meeting and shared. Some of these things which sometimes people who've been socialized as women tend to be expected to take care of. And at the end of each chapter there, we also include additional resources. Just to go on, yeah, and then you can see the next chapter is about outreach, community work as listening work. I'll pop the link to this guidebook in the chat, but I think that one of the ways in which we can ensure that there are more women and more, in general, a more diverse community energy movement is putting time and energy into these things which are sometimes thought of as soft skills, like making sure that the dynamics are right, that there isn't a really annoying person taking up too much time in the meetings. And also sharing the stories of women. I think, you know, there are young women coming up in the movement now, and sharing their faces and sharing their motivations just as much as we share those of the no question wonderful beardy old guys who started this movement many years ago. those are my ideas for now. I will stop sharing my screen and I'll leave it there. And I look forward to hearing other people's ideas and suggestions and participating in the discussion.